When a person walks away from your life, the first instinct is to chase. You feel this burning fear inside you that if you don't run after them, if you don't keep calling, texting, reminding them of your love, they will forget you. But here's the truth you need to understand. Chasing never brings someone closer. Chasing only proves to them that they have the upper hand, that they are in control, and that you have placed all your worth in their decision to stay or to leave. That energy is not attractive. In fact, it pushes people further away. Think about it for a moment. Imagine someone running after you non-stop, begging for your attention, constantly trying to convince you of their value. Do you feel pulled toward them, or do you feel the need to escape? Human psychology is wired in a way that we value what seems scarce, not what seems desperate. The more someone clings, the less we want to hold them. This is why the first shift you need to make is internal. Stop chasing, shift your energy toward attraction. Now, attraction doesn't mean manipulation. I am not asking you to play games. I'm talking about alignment. When you chase, you're aligning yourself with fear, fear of loss, fear of abandonment, fear of being alone. But when you focus on yourself, when you redirect the energy to becoming stronger, calmer, more grounded, you align yourself with abundance. And people are naturally drawn to abundance. There's a psychological principle called the Law of Diminishing Returns. It means that the more accessible something is, the less valuable it becomes. When you're always available, when you answer immediately, when you cancel your plans just to prove your devotion, you are giving unlimited access to your time and energy. And because it's unlimited, it loses its value in the other person's eyes. But when you take a step back, when you create boundaries, when you show that your life has meaning and purpose beyond chasing them, suddenly your presence becomes rare. And rare things are always valuable. This is where true attraction begins. It's not about sending the perfect text or wearing the right clothes. It's about embodying a state of self-respect so deep that people feel it when they are around you. It's about knowing your worth so clearly that you refuse to hand it away cheaply. That energy is magnetic. That energy makes the person who left wonder, why does he no longer chase me? Why is he not desperate anymore? And that curiosity begins to pull them back toward you. Let me make this even simpler. Chasing is about control. Attraction is about freedom. When you chase, you try to control someone else's choice, hoping to force them back into your life. But when you attract, you set them free, and in that freedom they realize where they truly want to be. And often that realization leads them right back to you. The irony of relationships is this: the moment you stop trying to hold someone is the moment they feel the most drawn to stay, because they are no longer reacting to your neediness. They are responding to your strength. You are not begging for their love. You are standing firm in your own power. That shift changes everything. I want you to reflect on this truth tonight. Desperation is loud, but confidence is silent. When you chase, you are screaming, "Don't leave me, I'm afraid of losing you." But when you stop chasing, when you center yourself and walk with quiet strength, you say, without words, I know my value and I don't need to prove it. That silence is irresistible. That silence draws people back more powerfully than any words ever could. So hear me clearly. Stop chasing. Stop giving your power away. Your energy is too valuable to waste on proving yourself to someone who already knows what you bring. Focus on attraction, and you will see how everything begins to change. And if you remember only one thing from this message, let it be this: you don't win someone back by running after them. You win them back by becoming someone they cannot afford to lose. When you finally stop chasing, the next step is to understand why people come back to you in the first place. They don't return because you begged them. They don't return because you convinced them. And they certainly don't return because you lowered yourself to prove your loyalty. They come back because they see something in you that is rare, unshakable self-worth. Let me tell you something important. The world treats you the way you treat yourself. If you carry yourself like you are disposable, people will treat you like you are replaceable. But if you move with the energy of someone who knows their value, if you walk into every interaction with the quiet confidence of knowing you are the prize, people can't help but respond differently to you. Think about it. Why do we admire certain people? Why are we drawn to leaders, visionaries, or even that one friend who always seems grounded and untouchable? It's not about how much money they have, how attractive they are, or even what they say. It's about the energy of certainty they carry. They don't need you to approve of them. They don't need you to validate them. They already know who they are. That kind of self-possession is magnetic. Now, in relationships, this principle becomes even more powerful when you're constantly questioning your worth, when you believe you are not enough. When you cling to someone because you think they complete you, you hand over your power. And the moment you hand over your power, you lose respect, both from them and from yourself. Respect is the foundation of attraction. Without it, love cannot survive. But when you build unshakable self-worth, you flip the entire dynamic. You stop asking, will she choose me? And instead you start asking, do I even want someone who cannot see my value? That one mental shift changes everything. It places you back in control of your own story. And people feel that. They sense that you no longer need them for validation, that your happiness no longer depends on their approval. That independence is deeply attractive. Understand this. Self-worth is not arrogance. Arrogance is loud, insecure, always needing to prove something. True self-worth is quiet. It doesn't need an audience. It's in the way you carry yourself, the boundaries you set, the standards you refuse to lower. It's in the way you can stand alone without collapsing, the way you can say no without fear, the way you can love someone deeply, but never at the cost of your dignity. And here's the paradox: the more you love yourself, the more others are able to love you. Not because you demand it, but because you model it. You show them how to treat you by the way you treat yourself. If you tolerate disrespect, they will continue giving it. But if you hold your standard high and walk away when it is not met, suddenly they are forced to confront the reality of your worth. And in that confrontation, many realize what they lost. Philosophically, you can think of self-worth as the anchor of your identity. Without it, you drift. You become whatever someone else wants you to be, hoping they will stay. But with it, you stand firm, rooted, unshaken by rejection. And let me tell you this, rejection has no power over someone who knows their worth. They may be disappointed, yes, but they are never destroyed. And when you reach that level, something incredible happens. The same people who once took you for granted begin to see you differently. They notice that you are not waiting by the phone, not desperate for their attention, not begging for their love. They notice that your life has purpose with or without them. And suddenly the balance of power shifts. They begin to question themselves. They begin to miss the strength and security your presence once gave them. That is when they come back, not because you chased them, but because your self-worth pulled them back like gravity. So the next time you feel the urge to beg for someone's love, stop and remind yourself of this truth. You don't need to prove your value to anyone who cannot see it. You only need to embody it. Self-worth is not something you wait for others to give you. It is something you decide to own. And I want you to remember this as you move forward. Love that is built on begging is fragile, but love that is drawn to strength is unbreakable. Build your worth so solid that even if they walk away, you still stand tall. Because in the end, people are not loyal to those who need them. They are loyal to those they cannot afford to lose. One of the hardest truths to accept is that closeness is not always what makes someone value you. In fact, sometimes it's the absence of your presence that forces them to confront your importance. This is why creating emotional distance is not about playing games. It's about allowing space for truth to surface. When someone knows you're always available, when they can predict that you'll answer every call, every text, every demand, they begin to take you for granted. It's not even intentional. It's just human psychology. We adapt to what is consistent, and when your energy is constantly there, they stop noticing it. Just like the air we breathe, it's vital, but we only notice it when it's gone. That's why distance is powerful. It introduces contrast. It allows the other person to feel what life is like without your constant presence. And in that silence, in that gap, they begin to recognize the weight of what they lost. Sometimes your silence can say more than 1,000 conversations, but let me be very clear, distance is not the same as anger or punishment. It's not about sulking or shutting someone out with bitterness. True emotional distance comes from a place of self-respect. It says, I value myself too much to keep giving energy where it's not reciprocated. It's not about making them suffer. It's about protecting your peace. Think of it this way: when you keep feeding someone your attention after they've disrespected or abandoned you, you're training them to believe that your love is unconditional in the worst sense, that no matter what they do, you will always be there. But when you step back, When you reclaim your energy, you send a different message. You teach them that access to you must be earned, not taken for granted. And here's the paradox. The less available you are, the more valuable your presence becomes. Scarcity increases worth. That's not manipulation, that's basic psychology. It's the same reason why rare gems are more sought after than stones scattered on the ground. When your attention is given freely, without boundaries, it loses value. When it is offered with intention and respect, it becomes priceless. Now, some people fear distance because they believe it will make the other person forget them. But the truth is, if someone can forget you that easily, they were never truly invested in the first place. On the other hand, if your presence carried real value, your absence will echo louder than anything you could say or do. Philosophically, distance is also a form of clarity. It strips away illusions. When you're too close, emotions blur your vision. You mistake attachment for love, dependency for devotion. But when you step back, you see things as they truly are. You begin to ask, is this relationship really nourishing me? Or am I simply afraid of being alone? And when you ask those questions, you grow stronger, more anchored in self-awareness. That growth itself makes you more attractive because you're no longer clinging, you're choosing consciously. Emotional distance is also about breaking cycles. If you've been in a pattern of chasing, of overgiving, of proving yourself, stepping back disrupts that rhythm. It forces the other person to either rise to the level of respect you deserve or lose access to you. Either way, you win, because you're no longer trapped in the exhausting cycle of giving more and receiving less. And remember, this distance is not rejection, it is redirection. You are redirecting your energy from trying to control another person to investing in yourself. And in doing so, you give them the chance to feel your absence. You give them the space to ask themselves, why do I feel this emptiness without him? What did he give me that I didn't value enough? That reflection is what often brings them back. Not your words, not your pleas, but the silence of your withdrawal. So do not fear stepping back. Do not fear creating space. Your presence will never be forgotten if it had real meaning. What you must remember is this: silence and distance are not signs of weakness. They are signs of strength, of discipline, of knowing your worth. And if you take nothing else from this message, take this truth with you. Sometimes the loudest way to say, I matter, is to say nothing at all. Up until now, we've talked about the power of not chasing, the necessity of self-worth, and the strength of creating distance. But none of that will hold its weight if you remain the same person you were when she walked away. Because let's be honest, something about the old version of you wasn't enough to keep her. Maybe you settled, maybe you got too comfortable, maybe you stopped growing. That's not a judgment, it's reality. Relationships don't break for no reason. And the worst mistake you could make is trying to bring someone back into the same environment that made them leave. This is where transformation comes in. Transformation is not just about proving to them that you've changed. It's about genuinely evolving for yourself. It's about becoming so complete, so elevated, that whether she comes back or not, you've already won. That is the kind of transformation that pulls people toward you naturally. Think about the seasons. Nothing in nature stays the same. The trees shed their leaves, the flowers bloom, rivers shift, mountains erode. Change is inevitable, but transformation is intentional. It's the conscious decision to say, I refuse to stay stuck in the version of me that no longer serves my growth. When you begin to transform, you create a new energy field around you. Physically, you might start taking care of your health, building your body, dressing differently. Mentally, you sharpen your focus, start reading, learning, developing your mind. Spiritually, you anchor yourself, finding calmness, peace, and direction. This multidimensional growth doesn't just make you attractive, it makes you unforgettable. Because people rarely forget the one who rose from the ashes stronger than before. But here's the beauty of true transformation. It's not about revenge. It's not about saying, look what you missed out on. That mindset is still rooted in them. True transformation is about saying, even if you never come back, I will continue to rise because my value doesn't depend on you. That kind of strength is magnetic. It's intimidating. It makes people stop and stare because they know you've entered a realm they can't ignore. Philosophically, transformation is the rebirth of identity. It's the death of the old self and the birth of the new. And death always comes with grief. You will grieve the old habits, the old attachments, The old version of yourself that was desperate, fearful, insecure. But in that grieving process, you discover liberation. You realize you are not chained to who you once were. You have the power to redefine yourself, and that realization is the most attractive thing you can carry into the world. And here's the truth: when she sees the new you, she will question herself. She will think, how did he change without me? How did he find strength in the very place I expected him to fall? That curiosity will eat at her, because most people secretly expect you to stay broken. They expect you to collapse under the weight of rejection. But when you rise instead, you shatter their expectations, and that shock has the power to draw them back. But whether she returns or not is secondary, because the real win is that you are no longer the same man. You have built a version of yourself that commands respect, that radiates strength, that holds peace within. And that version of you is not only attractive to her, it's attractive to the entire world. Opportunities, relationships, success, they all start aligning when you transform, because the universe responds to the energy you embody. So don't just wait for her to come back. Don't sit in the same room with the same habits, the same insecurities, hoping time will magically change things. Use the pain as fuel. Let the heartbreak become the fire that forges the new you, because nothing will make her question her decision more than seeing you thrive without her. And if you take nothing else from this point, remember this transformation is not about becoming someone else. It's about becoming who you were always meant to be. Shed the old skin, rise into the new self, because when you transform, you don't just attract her back, you attract a life that makes her return irrelevant. Now that you understand the power of transformation, let's talk about something equally important: controlling the narrative. Because you can evolve, you can grow, you can change your life completely, but if you allow the story of your past to dominate how people perceive you, then you remain stuck in their version of who you are, not your own. When she walked away, she didn't just leave. She left with an image of you. Maybe she left believing you were weak. Maybe she thought you were dependent. Maybe she assumed you couldn't survive without her. That version of you became her story. And the biggest mistake you can make is reinforcing that story by trying to convince her it's not true. The moment you try to explain, beg, or prove yourself, you're confirming her perception. You're living in her narrative, not yours. The power lies in flipping the script. You must control the story by embodying a reality so undeniable that her version of you no longer holds weight. When she sees you thriving, when she sees you standing tall, when she sees that you didn't collapse but actually became stronger after she left, the narrative she built in her mind begins to crumble. And once it crumbles, curiosity takes over. She has to ask herself, did I misjudge him? Did I underestimate his strength? Did I walk away from something rare? That shift in perception is often the beginning of her return. But let me emphasize something: controlling the narrative is not about posting fake happiness on social media, pretending to be someone you're not, or staging your life for attention. That's still rooted in her validation. True control comes when your transformation is so authentic, so deeply rooted in who you've become that you don't even need to broadcast it. The world can see it, and so can she. It's in your body language, your energy, the way you speak, the way you carry yourself. Real change doesn't need advertising, it radiates. And here's the philosophical depth of this point: narrative is power, because humans live through stories. We define our lives through the stories we tell ourselves and the stories others believe about us. If you accept the story that you are broken, abandoned, or unworthy, that becomes your reality. But if you decide that this heartbreak is the turning point, the rebirth, the moment that defined your strength, then that becomes your reality. The story you choose to believe shapes the person you become. So ask yourself, whose story are you living in right now? Hers, the one where you are the man who wasn't enough, the man she could walk away from without looking back, or your own? The one where you are the man who rose, who grew, who built himself into someone even she could no longer ignore? That choice is yours. And the moment you reclaim that choice, you reclaim your power. Now, practically, how do you control the narrative? You stop seeking her approval. You stop arguing, justifying, explaining. You stop fighting to be understood. Because when you are truly grounded in your self-worth and your transformation, you no longer need to argue your case. Your life becomes the evidence. Your silence becomes the testimony. And your growth becomes the undeniable truth. This is what makes controlling the narrative so powerful. You don't fight against her story, you simply outgrow it. You write a new one so compelling that it overshadows the old, and in time, she has no choice but to see you differently. And maybe she comes back, maybe she doesn't. But either way, you win. Because you're no longer trapped in the prison of her perception. You've built a reality so solid that it doesn't matter who doubts it, it stands on its own. So, hear me clearly, you cannot change the past, but you can rewrite its meaning. You cannot control what she thinks, but you can control what you embody. And when your story becomes one of strength, dignity, and resilience, no one can take that away from you. And if you remember nothing else from this point, remember this. Never let someone else write the ending to your story. You are the author, and the pen has always been in your hands. Everything we've discussed so far, stopping the chase, building your worth, creating distance, transforming yourself, controlling the narrative, it all leads to one final truth. And this truth is the most difficult, yet the most liberating of them all. It is the law of detachment. The law of detachment says this: the moment you stop needing something is the moment it starts to come toward you. Because neediness is heavy, it suffocates, it repels. But freedom is light, and lightness attracts. When you are no longer emotionally enslaved by the fear of losing her, when your happiness is no longer tied to whether she stays or leave, that is when you gain your true power back. Most people confuse detachment with indifference. They think letting go means you no longer care, that your heart turns cold. But that's not what detachment is. Detachment doesn't mean you stop loving. It means you stop clinging. It means you stop trying to control an outcome that was never yours to control in the first place. Detachment says, I love deeply, but my identity is not tied to whether you choose me or not. That is the ultimate freedom. Psychologically, detachment works because it shifts the energy dynamic. When you cling to someone, you send a constant signal of lack. I need you. I cannot function without you. I am incomplete without your presence. That energy doesn't inspire love, it suffocates it. But when you let go, when you live your life with fullness and peace regardless of her choices, you send a different signal. I am whole, I am complete, I am abundant, with or without you. That energy is irresistible. Philosophically, detachment is the highest form of strength because it reflects mastery over yourself. You're no longer a slave to desire, to attachment, to fear. You still feel, you still love, but you are not consumed, and that makes you powerful. Because when a person cannot control you with their presence or their absence, they lose their power over you. That's when they begin to respect you, and often that's when they return. Now let's look at this from her perspective. When you're chasing, when you're begging, she knows she has you. There's no risk for her, no tension, no space for desire to grow. But when you detach, when you stop reacting to her silence, when you stop revolving your life around her choices, suddenly she feels something she didn't expect. Uncertainty. She starts to wonder, why doesn't he need me anymore? Has he moved on? Did he find peace without me? That uncertainty is the spark that reignites attraction, because people are wired to chase what they fear they may lose. But here's the deeper truth. Detachment isn't just a tactic to get her back. It's a way of life, because whether she comes back or not, you've already won when you've reached a state where your happiness is no longer dependent on anyone else. That's the point. When you've built your life to be so fulfilling, your identity so grounded, your purpose so strong, then her return becomes a bonus, not a necessity. And if she does come back, she's not coming back to the desperate, broken version of you she left. She's coming back to the man who no longer needs her, the man who loves from a place of freedom, not fear. That kind of love is powerful, it's rare, and it's the only kind of love that lasts. So what do you need to do right now? Let go, not because you don't care, but because you care about yourself enough to stop living in chains. Let go of the need to control the outcome. Let go of the idea that your life is incomplete without her. Step fully into your own strength, your own abundance, your own completeness. And when you do, you'll notice something extraordinary. The more you detach, the more everything begins to flow toward you, not just her, but opportunities, respect, peace, and love from all directions, because detachment is not the absence of love. It is the presence of freedom. And freedom is the most attractive energy in the world. So remember this is the final word. The one who chases loses power. The one who waits wastes time. But the one who detaches, he wins.